All right, well, welcome to Build,
Welcome.
Launch, and Earn. Here we are.
On our fifth episode.
Yeah,
Time flies when we're having fun.
this is wild.
Yeah, it's our fifth one.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. There's probably some people joining and jumping in. It is Friday. Man, this week just flew by.
Flew by. In a good way. In a good way. Problems are being solved, clients are being made, so
Yeah,
we're making some moves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, man, I'm excited to be talking today.
Yeah.
We're talking about the holidays.
Yeah.
It is less than a week from Thanksgiving. I have a
Yeah.
bunch of Canadian friends, so
Okay.
they're always like, your Thanksgiving." So
Right,
I have to
right,
keep in mind it is
right.
not Thanksgiving next week for everybody. But here in the States, we're getting ready, and especially with you're starting to see all the we were just talking Black Friday, Cyber Monday promotions, all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff is happening. So it just feels like, hey, the year is ending like tomorrow.
Right. Thinking about the time that we have off for the holidays, end of year that's taking place with various clients, different things that are happening where we really don't have 30 days left. It may seem like, yeah, we have the month of December, but it's really not 30 days. So, what does that look like as you enter this season for yourself, for your firm, for your business? So, I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us, feel free to say hello in the chat. Let us know you're here. Let us know where you're from. Let us know. I don't know. What are you drinking? I got my cappuccino. It stopped at Fuego on the way here.
I think I'm on my third cup of coffee, so I'm transitioning to tea right now.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know what's going on, and just introduce yourself. A big part of
Yeah.
this is just getting to know one another, and we'll get started in just a moment here. And so if you're new, definitely let us know if you're new here. We'd love to meet. But first, let us introduce ourselves. You're probably wondering if you're here for the first time, who are these people?
Yes. So I'm Michael Gray. I am a product designer, formerly UX, and then as well as a full stack engineer. So being able to see things from the UX perspective, but appreciate how things are built and what that looks like. So I'm excited to be here with Sean.
Hmm. Yeah, my name is Sean Pritzkow. I get to co-host the stream with the Michael Gray. I work as a marketing consultant and strategist. I also run a web design studio. And I definitely consider myself more of like a generalist, full stack marketer kind of person, if you will. I have a lot of background in marketing, but background in design. Been building websites for a long time. Just started when it was fun, and then I somehow turned it into a career. Um, and Michael and I have known each other for many, many years. So this has been fun to be able to do these streams
Yeah.
together. Hopefully, we're going to talk a lot about ourselves on the stream and um, hopefully get to know us a little bit better.
Right, right, and our journey that brought us here. I think that we ended up just connecting on happenstance,
Yeah.
and it blossomed into this wonderful idea of working with designers. So this is something that we've had a passion for a while now, and to see it all come to fruition is a phenomenal thing on our fifth episode.
Yeah. And then that being said, what is this stream? Build, Launch, and Earn is a stream. It's a community. It is a YouTube channel. It's what you see here. But the purpose of it is to equip web designers with tools to build, launch, and earn. And we're doing this live and in community. So that can range from everything from starting your freelance business. That can be you launching and putting out whatever you're building online.
Right, right,
Um, and that's you doing all the behind the scenes work that no one gets to see
right,
and that no one, frankly, we don't talk about enough. Like
right.
what happens behind the scenes in building out independent design or creative business. Launching these things out into the world, launching your projects, launching your app ideas, launching your spin-offs, your startup
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to that point, adding where you are in your journey. This is a versatile group. So whether you're, hey, I'm gonna go get a certificate in UX design or visual design, I want to start there. For to your point of the seasoned
Hmm.
designers that we have in the community, from that perspective, this is also a great place to hear feedback from community members that allows you the opportunity to pick and choose how you can create your journey, but that's what we're here for ultimately, to also get you to that point where you can, if it's something that you're starting out with, do a little freelance work on the side, and then essentially, of course, build, launch, and earn. And what does that journey look like? So whether you're day one in a certificate program or PhD in UX and in psychology, this is the great community for
Yeah.
you, where we can all learn something from each other.
Yeah. And then finally, build, launch, and earn. So this really came from, like, there's a lot of communities online that will
Yeah.
talk about how to design
Yeah.
and teach you the tools and teach you the process. And those are really, really important. But we saw a lack in people talking about how to earn, how to grow a design
Right.
business, and how to really allow that to blossom and prosper, and make the decisions and the kind of uh, operation decisions you need to make to actually grow and make this a sustainable business. And we're leaning a little bit into that um, today. And then finally, like I said, live and in community, we do these and we're streaming live, so that we can get to know one another, that we can build some relationships here. Who knows? Maybe partnerships will come out of someone in this community. Maybe you'll end up working with someone or getting a referral or hiring someone in this community.
Right.
We want to build that here, so that this is a community that allows us to connect with one another and not feel isolated,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
help you know uh, grow as a community
Right.
together.
And to that point, last stream, we actually had a group of individuals who found
Mm,
out they were in the same radius, I would say like 10 to 15-mile radius.
mm,
I don't know what came of that, but just to know that, hey, and sometimes in this experience, it can be very isolating. You're
mhm,
by yourself. You may be kicking off this journey alone as you're
mhm,
entering this space. So, this is a great opportunity. And the example that I just talked about is definitely showcasing what we're here for, as a community. But if you get to connect with someone physically as well, that's awesome too. And we'd love to hear those stories as well.
mhm. That's right. So, in terms of today, what are we talking about? Well, we're the kind of the theme of this conversation is when things slow down. So this time of the year, things might slow down in terms of work. You might not get the kind of clients that you're looking coming through at the pace that you need. Revenue might be down. You're trying to pick up for the holidays. We're going to be talking about that.
Right.
But as well as is the time of year that we want to slow down ourselves and spend time
Mm.
with family
Mm.
and be able to, you know, kind of be like the normal people who
Right.
work somewhere and they take time off, right?
Right.
And when
Right.
you're working independent, it's just a little bit different of a thing.
Right. And you said it perfectly last time, where yes, you want to earn, but you don't want to resent earning in that
Yeah.
process. So making sure that I'm excited about this conversation because we're going to dive into that reflecting of, yes, there's the business side, but there's also you as the creative.
Hmm.
And we all know as creatives, when you're burnt out, you're not as creative. So how do we manage that, personally, but then professionally, and maintaining the growth of your business?
Hmm. That's right. And so, what does this stream look like today? Well, first, we're just going to have a community chat. The bulk of this is going to be talking with you. So, if you're just joining, make sure that you drop a note in the chat. Just let us know that you're here, maybe where you're joining from. But as we continue over the course of the hour, drop in your questions, because we want to address questions that the community is interested in. And we're going to talk about a bit of our experience in these areas and how we're feeling around this time of the year, and really talk through these topics. And then to wrap, we'll do a few things. We want to ask some questions to you. Just, this is we're heading towards the end of the year here. This is our November stream. We're going to have a December stream. We'll release the date in just a little bit. And then 2025 is over.
Right.
We'll
Right.
be moving the next year, and we want to plan out these streams so that we're talking about the topics that you want to talk about. So,
Absolutely.
want to hear your thoughts there. We'll have more time for any Q&A. And then finally, we'll do our Stripe Press giveaway. Want to talk about our Stripe Press giveaway?
Yes. at the end of the stream, we want to make sure that we're hearing from everybody. So make sure you guys register. But we'll have the opportunity for 3 individuals to actually get a book from Stripe Press, which is a great resource. Feel free to check it out. It's a great opportunity. Great resources, as I said, on a multitude of subjects, but we're going to give away 3 of those at the end. So stick around at the end to find out if you got a prize or a gift from us today.
That's right. And the URL is press.stripe.com. So feel free to check out the books there. And I just love, like, for web designers in the chat, it's a beautiful site. But let's jump in. So we're going to kind of split this up and first talk about when work slows down.
Yeah.
'Cause work slows down.
Yes. It's the holidays. It's the end of the year. Budgets may have been spent already, so business might be slowing down. So what does that actually look like for you? One of the things that, just kicking it off, in the downtime, one thing that I do to take advantage of, of that downtime is, what's a skill that the market is seeking that I can enhance on in the 3 to 4 weeks that I have available, and truly challenge myself. I want to enhance my work as a designer, but at the same time, I also want to learn a new skill that makes me more versatile. So one of my first recommendations is, if it's slow for the business, take that opportunity to say, okay, well, noticed that, of course, we all know there's a big push for AI. One of the boot camps that I teach at, they're pushing AI very heavily, where I think they're actually going through a 4-week test course of what that looks like. And that's a certificate as well as a short course. So from that perspective, that's a great example of something that isn't going anywhere anytime soon, but at the same time adds a versatility for you to say, okay, well, I'm a prompt expert. We had Miggy from Figgy last stream, and we talked about Figma Make and what that looks like. So during this downtime, take a look at the skills that the market is that are in demand for the market, that you can utilize in this short period of time, where you can get certified, but then also push out a couple projects that not only do you have a certificate, but you also have that coursework and that experience to say, hey, here's an example of a project that I've just worked on.
Yeah, and to add to that, because there's been seasons too. Like, the story that I like to tell is around the pandemic. So this was not November, December. This was straight February. But and I think I've talked about this on the stream a bit before. But all my work at that period was, like, very event driven. I was doing a lot of marketing for very large events, in real life events, and so for that season. For a few months, like, work was really, really slow. And I had been building WordPress sites for 10, 15 years or something at that point. And I had been what I call Webflow curious. I was really curious about Webflow. I've been following a lot of channels. I had been wanting to learn it, but there was the idea that I didn't want to, I already had if I wanted to build a website, I knew how to do it. And so I didn't need to learn a new skill. But my downtime afforded me the opportunity to pick up a new platform, and I completely switched and really became heavily focused in the Webflow space. So very same thing, like, take that time to learn a skill that might just be on deck, but you haven't been able to, like, promote it to where your time and attention is right now.
Right, absolutely. And it's another great opportunity if you've already done a certificate. I did a full stack engineering certificate myself, but I really didn't dive into it like I wanted to. So during this downtime, having the ability to actually exercise the skills that I've learned, this is a great time for you to pick up a basic project, or if you're starting out, find a website that's not so great, where you can actually produce something a little bit better and add to your portfolio. So even if you've done something in the past, but you haven't maximized on it like you wanted to, definitely take this time, because you already have those skills. So now you can take that up a notch and ultimately help your business.
Another thing I like to talk about too, and this doesn't necessarily have to just be for students, but it's top of mind right now, is I was at a couple universities locally. I'm doing some guest speaking this week, and a lot of students were asking, like, well, when I'm not employed, or while I'm trying to get a job, but I don't have, like, work samples, or I don't have a lot of experience to show them. I have maybe some coursework, but I don't have, like, previous job stuff to share. Like, personal projects, I think, are under talked about, underrated. If there's an idea that you have, like to make it come to life.
Right.
Another example of this is I have a good friend and former colleague, Christina Blyler of Gem Creative Co. We're actually working on a project together right now. And I think last year or 2 years, she's like the queen of this. She put together a whole brand around Harry Potter.
Okay.
And it was like this Harry Potter themed. I forget what the actual company was. I think it was like a coffee shop or something.
Okay,
It
cool.
was all Harry Potter themed. You would have landed on this landing page and thought this thing existed in real life.
Wow,
That you wanted
wow.
to go and like sit next to Hermione and
Right,
drink
right,
your
right.
cappuccino or something. But it was just like it was perfection. It looked so beautiful, and this was something that she just did with some downtime.
Right.
But it became like a example of taking a brand from scratch and bringing it to life. And
Right.
so I think it's really like understated often, like
Yeah.
the idea of bringing up personal projects or years back, it was actually during COVID, I put together this project called Buy Cards from Home. There's a lot of small businesses that were struggling. Coffee shops,
Yep,
for
I
example,
remember you sharing
you
that,
couldn't
yeah.
just like go
Yeah.
in and grab coffee anymore. And
Yep.
so I just pulled some APIs together that was like anyone who had a gift card locally, and then you could buy it online, search through all the gift cards locally, and buy a gift card. It was just like something I had. I was like, this is I think would be good for the community. It was
Right.
downtime for me, and people still ask me about that. Which that I think I spent like an afternoon on it.
Right.
But people are all like, "What's that? Is that thing still going? Like, am I
Yeah.
still?"
Yeah,
They ask
absolutely.
me for the link and stuff. So those things can be really memorable for people, even though it
Right.
wasn't a paid client project.
Right. And I think that leaves a great impression when you do take something you're passionate about. You're not paid for it. No one, it's an internal motivation that's driving you to build it. When I was starting my first startup, I based it off of a case study that I completed, and from that perspective, I really had a lot of imposter syndrome. I startup founder, and then from that perspective, the product manager. And although it wasn't the business jargon that may be in the certain spaces, I still was able to bring a lot to the table for other employers. So to that extent as well, I know some of us may be dealing with, well, to Sean's point, it's just a personal project, no one really thinking about it, but there is a lot of weight and appreciation, but also professional development skills that you've learned. So one of the things I was watching this past week that I saw on LinkedIn, a gentleman recommended, he outlined, if you've done a personal project, don't diminish your skills. Just take the time to understand what business language from a corporate perspective, if you're looking for a role. So those type of things where, and this is a great segue into learning a new skill, but mocking up or updating your case studies. Any projects that you're working on right now. So if you worked on a personal project, because it does bring a great value, there is a learning experience that's connected with that. Maybe you just need to take the time to adjust it if you're looking for a new role that fits the space that you're going into. But again, don't think that it's because I definitely had that challenge of, well, I only started a startup. We got some money for the startup. I built a team from scratch. There was a lot of things that I accomplished, but from what I saw in the market or in the space, it was just another project, personal project that I worked on. So definitely, to Sean's point, definitely look at the skills, but then also don't underestimate what you've learned, especially if you can make someone believe that there is a Harry Potter coffee shop, and
Yeah,
if what if it gets
yeah,
some traction? You never know.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and underscore the idea of like updating your website over time, because when client work is busy and you're busy and like you're not in the mode of what's my website look like, or did
right,
I just completed this really successful project.
right,
I forgot to send and ask for a testimonial.
yeah,
Reach out, ask for a testimonial. It's a way to like continue that conversation going,
yep,
reminding that client of the value that was generated through that project,
right,
right? So you're staying in communication with your past customers, past clients. But those like little website updates just shows that you're still alive
right,
too.
right. Yes, that you're still taking clients, that you're still out there, you're still accepting work, that the work that you're producing is fresh. I just jumping back to the Harry Potter one, a couple because now you got me thinking. 3 days ago, I found Dunder Mifflin. For all you Office fans out there, I am an avid I am an avid
Yeah.
Office fan, and you would have thought like it was Dunder Mifflin. I was creating a test user for a product that I'm working on.
Mm.
I'm like, naturally, Michael Scott. So I Google what's Dunder Mifflin's phone number,
Yeah.
and this entire website came up of The Office, from
Oh,
accounting,
that's
from the
amazing.
first season all the way to the last season. It was an experience. So to that point, and I think they actually still looking at some of the code, it's still maintained.
Mm.
So from that perspective, to your point about making sure things are updated, even if you forget it,
Mm-hmm.
that's still this is a great time for you to
Mm-hmm.
take that opportunity and say, hey, we worked on this project together. Let me get a testimonial. One of the things that I was sharing with Sean earlier was that um, if you had if you connected with someone and you may have dropped the ball a little bit, from my perspective, the holiday seasons are a great time to reconnect. Oh, I met you at the conference. I met you at this conference in August.
Mm-hmm.
Love to connect again, see what your New Year's like. Allowing yourself to put yourself back out there, reconnecting with those individuals. Like I said, wish them a happy holidays, but then do that little plug of, hey, I see that you're working on something. How can we collaborate? So it does allow them to refresh and reset that relationship, but at the same time, just show that you're still interested in working with them and reconnecting with them as well.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And just because I know some people are just joining in a little bit late, feel free to introduce yourself, drop your name in the chat, and where you're joining from, and bring you up to speed. We're talking about when work slows down towards the end of the year. Work might ramp up for you, work might slow down for you, right? And there's a lot of emotion that comes with that, like anxiety of like, am I able to make it through this season, or what are some changes that I need to make so that I bring in more client work and things like that. We're talking about all those kind of things.
Yeah.
We're just talking a little bit about what to do with that downtime, whether it is investing in the personal projects, whether it's connecting with past clients, whether it is revising your website. Um, I've been working independently for just about 10 years now. I think November was my 9-year anniversary.
Okay.
I don't really think of, you don't really think of anniversaries like
Work
no one's
anniversaries.
celebrating you.
Right.
But
We're
um,
celebrating you. The community is.
but I was telling Michael before the stream, like I started my independent like freelance business in November, and so I didn't really feel like I was able to like afford the time to slow down.
Right.
But since then, there's been years where like Thanksgiving's coming. We're starting to think about Christmas, and the holidays are coming. Things are getting more expensive. Like you
Right.
have to
Right.
buy all these gifts for people,
Right.
and you might have a partner who's taking off time, and you want to be able to take off time and
Spend time with them.
spend time with your family or
Absolutely.
travel, right? And if you're working independently, no one's really giving you that paid time off unless
Right.
you are.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So when work slows down, it can feel like all the things we just shared about are great things to do with that downtime. But what if you're in the mode of like, I need to get some business in, like
Right.
to stay busy, stay afloat.
Right.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
I think like you just shared, the idea of reaching out to past clients.
Right. Right.
I was chatting with some people a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about what do we do when work slows down
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
And I have like an email template that I've
Okay.
used,
Okay.
and it's worth looking up. I think he calls it the magic email. Blair ends.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And essentially, it's like waking up any old like people you might have been talking 6 months ago about a project with someone, and over the course of time that you lost the thread on that conversation.
Right. Right. Right.
And so this is a good time to reach out. He calls it a magic email. It's just essentially saying like, "Hey, I know we were talking a few months ago, and we
Right.
didn't really close the loop on that project. So I just want to close the loop. Are you interested? Are you not
Right.
interested?" Every time I've sent that email, someone
Yeah.
is like, "Wait! I was so interested in working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's pick
Yeah.
that back up."
Right. Right.
So there's like little things like that that can help like stir up old business. It's really kind of widely known that it's easier or cheaper to work with a past client than go acquire a new
New one.
client.
Yeah, yeah. And especially when we think about ask that question of what they're working on, but also do some research to see what they're getting into. From that perspective, if that current project, or excuse me, that previous project that you were working on with them, maybe that's not a thing anymore and
Mm-hmm.
they've switched direction. Well, take advantage of what they're switching direction to and start a new conversation, but also at the same time close the deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a great opportunity to recognize you already have that relationship, and if you build that rapport, continue to work on that rapport, that opportunity to say, hey, well, Sean's a perfect candidate for this, which has happened numerous times already,
Mm-hmm.
but Sean's a perfect candidate for this. So I think making yourself available, and to the point of reflecting, refreshing your case studies,
Mm-hmm.
refreshing your website, letting them know that you're there, looking at the offerings that you're putting out. Hey, we were talking about this, but I can now do this. So it kind of shows your versatility as that client. Typically, when I first learned how to code, a lot of people, my challenge personally was I could build a wonderful clickable prototype in Figma. Now, this was before Figma Make, so this is back in the day. Sean can attest to this, but back in the day, building a clickable prototype, you had your different component libraries and design system. My personal thing was I've always wanted to take the design from start to finish beyond HTML and CSS.
Mm-hmm.
So when I took the time to explore that boot camp, participate in it, I went back to the same people and said, hey, now I can do end to end the
Mm-hmm.
whole entire product.
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking at from what your users might be from a user perspective to the stack that you're working on, from a development perspective? And it's definitely grown, and created a lot of opportunities for me where I can do things end to end, but it brings in enough work where I don't have to think about having multiple clients, because my service offer expanded, so yours can too. And to that point,
Mm-hmm.
balancing that out, well, you have more service offerings now, you can focus on a smaller group of clients, from my perspective, that know your services, that you can do it from end to end.
Mm-hmm. That's a really, really great point and call out, especially like upselling in some ways, like AI is like.
Yeah.
Have you heard AI? Like,
Right.
no, that was like a lot of things like with design right now. Like one
Mhm.
thing I've been thinking about is like answer engine optimization
Yeah.
and things that like are so fresh that there's actually not a lot of specialists in that category.
Yeah.
But it might be a good add-on. So you're like, hey,
Right.
we launched a website this year, like, but we didn't think about how like we optimized it for search, but not answer engine. So
Right.
so you can kind of reach out and talk with people about just doing further work on the projects that you already
Right.
launched, which is really really interesting concept.
And to your point, as it relates to, there is a lot going on with AI, and sometimes people just need a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have to learn how to code AI,
Mm-hmm.
but from that perspective, if you can make someone feel comfortable with, okay, this is your basic GPT, but then you talk about Figma Make. This is how you can naturally go through Figma Make, and how we're taking AI to build designs. We have
Mm-hmm.
things like Lovable. So I think the AI conversation goes over a lot of businesses, or smaller operations, I would say. It goes over their head because
Mm-hmm.
there's so many options out there. So if you can become well versed in various AI platforms and say, hey, we can use this for this, and make them feel more comfortable about it, that may be a skill that you can enhance yourself, that
Mm-hmm.
allows you to say, okay, well, I know AI enough. I know the prompts to ask on various AIs, whether it's Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, or Figma Make, in a different perspective or different space. But becoming that expert or authority for a business where you can be that go-to person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other perspective to Sean's point is, a lot of businesses are saying, we see the majors that are out there, the larger firms, but a lot of businesses are saying, well, how do I integrate it? How do I go beyond just a basic conversation with a GPT? How can I potentially use Figma Make for my design team at a smaller firm?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a great opportunity there where just taking some time to spend with different technologies can also expand your service offerings.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that we can think through too, if you're looking to drum up additional work throughout the holidays, because I'm very, uh, like honestly or vulnerably, like
Yeah.
there was years, especially early on, where there was like, oh, I need to find a new client before Christmas,
Right.
and that's just the name of the game when you're building this. Feast and famine is all too common,
Yes.
and the feast can feel great, but when you're not there,
The
it can
famine
hurt.
is real.
One thing that I usually don't really recommend to like rely on this, but is
Mm,
subcontracting.
mm,
And so If you're not getting like if you're like I need a client now,
Right.
it's hard to do work to like get that in the short term.
Right.
But I don't think we talk enough about like the big brother, big sister
Mm.
agency,
Yeah. Yeah.
freelancer type
Yeah.
concept. Um,
I don't
and
think a lot of people think to do that though.
yeah,
To that point, I think they have to. I think to your point about the famine aspect, I have to find a client. I have to do it, and I
hmm
have to go out and make these connections. Where
hmm
when you're starting out, and I'm guilty of this to myself, you're not thinking about, oh, I can go to this big firm and
hmm
offer my services. So if you could talk about that a little bit more, because if we could expand on that and make that the norm, I think a lot of people don't go for subcontracting. To your
hmm
point, there are measures to make sure you're okay and parameters,
hmm
but what does that actually look like?
Yeah. So to think about it, of uh, if you're having the problem
Mm.
of I don't have enough clients coming through, the reality is that there's other people that are having the opposite problem.
Right,
They're like, I
right.
have too much work coming through,
Mm,
or I might be getting too much interest,
mm,
and some of that interest is actually not. We can't take that on. It's actually
right,
maybe those projects are not big enough for us,
right.
and we have too many larger projects in flight that we can't serve a smaller client, for example.
Makes sense.
And so if you have relationships built with other agencies, agency owners, like for example, in Rochester, I'm a part of the American Advertising Federation,
Mm,
where it's comprised of different agencies.
mm,
And so if you have good relationships with folks, you can say like, hey, the holidays are coming up and my bandwidth is pretty open right now and I'm
mm,
looking to take on more projects.
mm.
Who knows? That email could come at the time when someone is stressed out and saying, I can't manage all this work.
Right,
So they would happily bring someone in to like ease up the workload,
right,
or they may have just gotten an email from a client that's kind of too small for them, and they're
right.
like they would love to hand it off to a trusted partner.
Mm, mm,
And so I think just building the relationships in that area,
right.
and those are people, those aren't clients, those are in some ways they're clients, but maybe not. Like
Right.
um, you could easily reach out to someone who you have a relationship with and
Mm.
say, you know, you've had light seasons. This is a light season for me.
Right.
I'm reaching out to see if there's any way I could be helpful.
Right. Right.
And
And
that
I
could be really
think,
welcomed.
and to that point, I think also don't think big. I think there are a lot of regional players. I think,
Mm-hmm.
oh well, if I can go to the largest firm that covers the United States, yeah, they're there. But there are a lot of regional players, and I am a big proponent. Um, in my career, I've moved around different parts of New York, so I say I have a lot of regional diversity, and that does have an impact on when I do speak with clients. Because if there's a client in Albany, lived there for 6 years, I can understand the capital region, things like that. So from that perspective, taking a moment to see where you are geographically from that perspective, and saying, okay, well, if I can't directly make that service offering, who in the region could actually make could actually that I could reach out to, excuse me, that I can offer my services to as that subcontractor. But I definitely believe that, I'm very much so, grip and grin will always win. So in
Mm-hmm.
my head, meeting in person, making that connection. So, if you find someone that's in a different state, great. There's a virtual nature to that. But if you can find someone where you can build a rapport, be with them, work with them, and have a long standing partnership as a subcontractor, to Sean's point, whatever that looks like for you, how you put them as a client, that's up to you. But from that perspective, saying, I'm from this area, I know the area, I can understand, but then also I can
Mm-hmm.
work on various things that, let's say it's a smaller firm that may be so focused on a specific region where a larger, excuse me, specific area where a
Mm-hmm.
larger firm can't take that on,
Mm-hmm.
but they can say, okay, well, this person's from, they're from Rochester. They know what Rochester looks like. This
Mm-hmm.
business is very Rochester focused. That geographic diversity, again, allows you to stand out a little bit more if you can say, hey, that's my hometown, and I'm also a designer that's really good at what I do.
Mm-hmm. Also, like to that point of diversity, one of the things I think about this whole conversation
Mm.
is the holidays are approaching, or
Yep.
we're smack dab in the middle of the holidays,
Yep.
and we're not happy with how much revenue we're making.
Mm. Mm.
And one thing I think might be a good way to one thing would be good to cover, and then transition us into the second half of this
Yeah.
is that the feelings that we're experiencing this time of the year is
Oh,
often a symptom of a larger problem,
Yeah.
where during the holidays, the amount of really time that we have available to work, if we want
Mm.
to take time off, travel, etc.,
Mm.
we have less time, but then our expenses start soaring because
Right.
we're being generous and we're
Right.
expected to give gifts to our families and you
Mm.
might have children and
Right.
all the expenses go up, right? And so it's actually kind of just it's more of a symptom of a larger problem that
Mm.
just like month to month throughout the year,
Mm.
you're not as profitable as you should be.
Right. Right.
So some things to think about along this line too is we don't want to just make this like a November, December, we get through the holidays and then we don't make any changes. And then
Mm.
we have the same problem next November, next December.
Right. Right.
So some things to think about are like the services that you're offering. Like
Mm.
some people might just need to charge more,
Right.
or they need to bring in some support so that they have the ability to take on more projects, something like
Right.
that. Or to your point of diversity, you might need to diversify the kind of clients you work with,
Mm.
so you're not working with all of the kind of clients that don't need help in the end
Right.
of the year.
Right.
Maybe you have a few different kind of niches that you work with.
Right.
That maybe you have a one kind of client that gets really busy towards the end of the year and they need all
Mm.
this support, right?
Right. Right. Right.
A little bit of that, or you might need to diversify like the kind of services you're offering,
Yeah.
or have monthly recurring revenue so that you
Mm.
have retainer clients that don't ramp up, slow down, and it's
Right.
kind of more even.
Right. And I think to that point, I love the idea of really defining your service offerings. And we when we start out, we may have, you know, five solid service offerings that we think, and I say this from experience, we think it's going to be the best five service offerings. I'm good at all five. And then, client three, you find out you're good at two. And personally, for me, it was letting go of the other three and really diving
Mm,
into those two service offerings. And with design, we all know it can be very niche. So you may offer five service offerings, but each one of them may have their own three subcategories. So you really have 15 at that point. And are you truly sticking with that? And also, from that perspective, being comfortable with saying, this is my service offerings. There was someone who said that, if you're looking for this, if it was like a quick, hey, I can quick design a quick logo or a quick website, I'm not your guy for that, because of the
mm,
fact that they felt comfortable that they were dealing with longer term clients
mm,
that were, they weren't just flipping a logo, they were building a brand, they were building a product. So I say that to say, when you identify those 2 to 3 service offerings that you're really good at, that
mhm,
you can showcase and start making those connections, you can feel comfortable saying, hey, this is what this is what I have to offer. Now, on the other side of that, you have your three service offerings, but to your point, diversify who you're offering them to.
mhm,
Look at whomever. If you're huge in the not-for-profit space, find that segue into the for-profit space. Get that recurring revenue. Find the subcontractors. But I think one of the things that I will say that I personally had to deal with, or I was challenged with, was I can do adjusting my offerings just to get the client. Well, I can do this, and I'm really not
mm,
good at this.
yeah,
Like, I can do HTML and CSS. That's about it. I
yeah,
really can't build it. However, I can do a full blown case study for you and tell you your persona, your pain points, the solution, how we can design that in Figma. And that's where I personally at the time didn't really talk about dev anymore, because I was a really good UX designer.
mm,
And that's where the bread and butter was coming from. So rather than, saying, oh, there's a dev opportunity here, pretty much ended the dev opportunities and really just went for the UX opportunities. And it paid off in the long run
mm,
because I was really good at what I did. And at the same time, the going back to my previous point about starting a business, that perspective that I got from not only UX but starting a business, working with cross-functional teams, that was pretty much what drove
mm,
my business to the next level.
mm. Well, it's maybe a good segue
Yeah,
into the
yeah,
next half.
yeah.
So feel free, if you're just joining us, or you haven't introduced yourself or dropped in a question yet, feel free to drop something in the comments. Remind you that we have a giveaway at the end, so if you stick around till the end, you can get entered in the Stripe Press giveaway.
Absolutely.
But this next part is not when the work slows down, but when you
You.
want to slow down. So this is the opposite side of the coin,
Yeah.
and this isn't like a early career, later career conversation. I think this is
Continual.
yeah, like I've had years that are slow and years that are ramped up at the end of the year, and
Right.
sometimes I feel like there's no rhyme or reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what do you do when you have full pipeline
Mm.
projects so full, you feel like you're on negative bandwidth,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then uh, families coming over from out of town,
Yep.
and Thanksgiving you're hosting, right? And
Yes. Yes.
um, like the Christmas comes around. I've been in scenarios like this. I shared a little bit. My first year was I started in November.
Mm.
I landed my first client in November, and it was a very very uh, big 4 month project
Mm.
where we needed 9 months,
Yeah.
and it was a
Wow.
very tight turnaround. It was event marketing based thing, and I remember like I was like I can't do the holidays. Like I have this huge
Yeah.
project I just landed.
Right. Right. And so they expected it through the holidays as well, like
I
that.
like there was I mean, it was an all hands on deck project. Everyone knew
Gotcha.
it going into
Wow.
it, right?
Wow.
So it was like the week between Christmas and New Year's, like
Mm.
we are on calls together
Okay.
to try to make this thing happen.
Mm.
And so I knew like at that time, I knew that couldn't be a habit.
Mm.
My family wouldn't, my wife would not be happy if every Christmas Eve I'm just zooming with people,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
But I knew like I'm launching this business.
Mm.
I had my first client. It was a large client. This was a good way to kick off
Yeah.
this thing.
Mm.
But I'm like, man, I can't do this every year. I can't.
Right.
I would need.
Right. You need a team.
Yeah.
You need a team.
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the first things that we were talking about earlier is I love the way that you said that when you're running on negative. You're not even on E. You're
Yeah.
at negative at this
Yeah.
point, and there's a multitude between family, business, personal, and we find ourselves, I think, during the holidays that's exacerbated. So to that point, I take the approach of let me take a moment to step back.
Mm.
Sean will tell you, I'm an avid airplane spotter. If there was a window right now and there were airplanes going across right now, I would not be sitting here with you.
He's got apps, people.
I track them. All the things about airplanes. You ask me, I'll tell you right now. What time is it? Because certain planes might be taking off. But I say that to say, if you can't tell, I get very excited about airplanes. But that's also my piece where I go. I have gone to the airport and just literally sat and watched airplanes to decompress. And that's one of the things where, from a design perspective, someone was working on a project and it was one of my students and they were working on something related to transportation. And me, again, I'm at the airport and it came to me out of nowhere. Well, what if you had this retro idea of using the old school ticketing system or a old school color like yellow from a New York City cab, things like that that drew my inspiration. But definitely I say all that to say taking the time to reset and reflect. I think you're no good to yourself or anyone else if you are running on negative. If you are having everybody over for Thanksgiving, that's a lot. Having everyone over for Thanksgiving, dealing with multiple clients who, because we're approaching the end of the year, have to reach certain deadlines, and you're part of that team. So definitely taking the time to take a step back and reflect. One of my favorite shows is The West Wing, and there was a woman, the press secretary was brought in as the chief of staff. And the first day, she just walked off like she needed a minute because it's, of course, a very intense job. But I say that to say, even in the moments of stress, you still have to take that time back to make sure that you're actually functioning at the proper level and that you're making the best decisions for yourself, your client, your family, all the people that depend on you. So definitely, I think that's what I like to take the personal approach first before you figure out what's the business, what's this. Let's just have a cup of tea. Let's just have a cup of coffee. Go watch some airplanes. But from that perspective, then going to that next level of now that we've got ourselves balanced out and situated, what does that look like? Now that you're good, what do you do to slow down from that perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have some similar things. Like I joke around about my obsession with coffee all the time, but
Yes.
it's pretty common.
Yes.
I just go to a cafe and I don't bring a laptop, and
Mm.
I might try to leave my phone in the car and just sit
Yeah.
for 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just the time for me just to like enjoy the coffee,
Yeah.
say I might bump into someone. I'm an extreme extrovert,
He
so I just
will
want
bump
to
into
chat.
someone. He will. There, he not might.
That's
That's
my
a will.
goal. I'm gonna go corner barista and make him chat with me for 10 minutes. Or it's just like walking the dog around the neighborhood.
Mm,
There's a few things just to like find time
mm.
for some peace. And like I'm trying to honestly formulate those habits myself
Okay.
because those
Okay.
are can be hard to come by, especially because we're always just like inundated with these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but another thing I think is important to talk about around the time when you're, like you said, you have a full flight, full deck of
Full
projects,
flight.
and
Good way to say it.
good.
Full flight. Full flight. That's a good way to say
I need like that.
it.
You have, all these projects coming up,
Mm,
and it's the holidays. You're trying to balance,
mm,
and I think a
mm,
lot of this is communication.
mm.
I think it's both communication, some ways with yourself,
Yeah.
understanding what this maybe that season's going to look like,
Right.
trying not to make it a habit, communicating with a partner.
Mm,
If you have a lot going on around the holidays with work, and
mm,
you have a partner who's thinking that you're going to be present
mm.
in different ways and have
Right.
expectations for you. A big part of that is communicating with them.
Mm.
That's something I've done not so well over some
Yeah.
years, and I'm trying to do better at some years. Um, and then communication with clients,
Mm.
making sure that they know, like, hey, we have a deadline around the holidays. Like, what is that? Are you going to be working through Christmas to
Mm.
get my
Right.
project done?
Right. 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 Right.
Or sometimes I've been guilty of putting way too much pressure on myself that actually the
Mm.
client's not putting on me.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to be doing this work. And
Mm.
then I might send an email and the client is like, it's,
Thanksgiving.
yeah, like you spend time with your family. I'm like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I had worked up all of this
Right.
emotion
Angst.
and
Yeah.
angst and stress that wasn't being put on me by someone else. It's
Right.
actually me. So
Yeah.
I think a big part is just communicating with those around you who
Mm.
you're in relationship with your clients.
Mm.
Um, and then another thing is like project management.
Yeah.
Like why like plan for the holidays so
Right.
that you're not putting deadlines right before the holidays, after the holidays.
Mm.
Understand how you want to structure your year because
Right.
if these are your projects, you are the project owner. Like these are
Exactly.
your clients.
Exactly.
So I don't think we realize enough that actually we get ourselves into these problems. Like
Yeah.
these are our
Yeah. That's the
problems. This
same.
was not
Yeah.
often not a client that
Right.
did this.
Right.
I said I would love to deliver this by the 24th. Like
Okay, that's a grand that's an admirable
yeah,
conquest.
yeah,
But I also think, to your point, what do you want your season to look like? And I think that's a recurring thing. If you're like, all right, well, I want to travel with my family, or I want to do certain things throughout the year. When bringing on a new client, understanding their deadlines, your timeline, what that actually looks like, and then what we used to say at Apple all the time, early and often. Bring them in as early and as often as possible. So if you set that expectation like, hey, my birthday's in March and I'm going to have, a week off, I want to let you know this. But I think, to Sean's point, us getting ourselves into these situations, if we can if we made it a rule, every time you got a new client, and they're being brought on, and you're looking at the timeline and you're cross-referencing it with, I would say, even take the time back to yourself, take their timeline back to your office, back to your space, and really look at your materials. Because if you say to me, I sign a client as a client, I signed with you in January, and our project goes till June, but March is your birthday. If you say that early and often, like I said, if you tell me in the beginning, I have a better understanding of, okay, well, this is what it looks like, and we can build our work around that versus, oh crap, it's February. My birthday's next month.
yeah,
My client has a big chunk of or a major sprint coming out, but I have a flight booked to London.
yeah.
That's going to be a bigger problem. So to your point, I think we do put ourselves in those situations, but at the same time, if we said we made it a rule of thumb that every time I get a client, I will not just take their timeline, but I'm going to take their timeline, look at my own timeline, and ask them, what are the major milestones and when do you expect them? Because quite frankly, if you have something going on, that's a different conversation. But again, early and often enough that makes them feel comfortable.
That's a really good point. Another thing on my mind too is like I kind of joked around like if you work at a normal, you're an employee somewhere, like you
Yeah.
get paid time off as a benefit.
Right.
And if you're
Yeah.
working for yourself, like it's different. But there's
Hmm.
no reason why you shouldn't be able to give yourself paid time off,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
There was actually someone based in Rochester named I think Matt Opinski. I remember when I was freelancing, he put out something that was really interesting. He had like a whole spreadsheet
Hmm.
how he handled his finances, and I
Okay.
remember he shared something to the effect of like how he allocated himself paid time off
Oh, okay.
on a
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have to go that deep into things,
Right.
but he essentially like paid himself out of his own paycheck, paid PTO like an employer would.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
really really interesting, and
That's a great way. That's a
I
great way to
don't
do it.
I don't think of it that way, but
Yeah.
I really respect that
Yeah.
process. Um, but like asking yourself, like as a freelancer, someone who works independently, like do I offer myself PTO? Like in acknowledging if you do or you don't, and then planning for that. So a lot of this comes when you put yourself in a bind for um, this month, next month. But if you
Right.
look next year and say, oh, December, do I want to have 2 weeks off around the holidays?
Right. Right.
Putting it in there now.
Right.
And then you need to know over the course of the next 12 months, like, what does it look like for me to make sure that I have X amount of dollars in the savings account
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
I'm not stressed out next year because I have my paid time off next
Right.
year or something.
Exactly.
I think thinking about this like a business because you're not
Mm.
just a freelancer, you're not just someone, you're not just a designer, like you're a business owner,
We talked
and you
about
need to
that.
think
Yeah.
about this.
One,
Yeah,
one of our streams we talked about that. And if yearly is too intimidating, quarterly is fine too.
100%.
If you say, all right, well, we got 3 months until December, let's
Hmm.
kick this off now.
Hmm.
But quarterly, looking at the entire quarter and seeing where you want to be, looking at that paid time off, but also again bringing in a new client, what does that look like from your quarterly schedule as well? I do want to turn to the comments real quick because we did have a question here. So someone said one of my goals for 26 is to learn and master Figma. Admirable. I like that. Any recommendation on how to make that happen?
Mm. Um, I don't know how long it takes to master
I don't.
anything, but
Right. Right.
um, learn for sure.
Yeah.
There's so many good resources. Like YouTube is university to
Yeah.
me.
YouTube University. Yes.
We just had Miggy on last week.
Miggy from
I
Figgy.
think
Yeah.
a lot of people on the stream were there last week.
Yeah.
So he does a lot of community education on YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And he lives in Rochester, so sometimes I bump into him and he will teach me something on Figma, which is really cool. But there's a lot of good YouTube resources. Like a lot of times for platform specific info, I say go right to the source and find the resources that they come out with. But that being said, there's a lot of other like really good instructors on YouTube and things. And one of the things I like to say about when it comes to teaching is or learning these kind of platforms and materials is the doing. So just go ahead and use the platform and like find a use case that forces you to use it. So say like I'm gonna design and launch. Earlier in the stream we talked about like a passion project or a side project, something that you want to build that isn't like a for hire project, and then using the tool to do that. So you could wireframe and design your landing page in Figma so that you can build it. And it forces you to use the tools. And I think a lot of things, especially with Figma, is just getting the reps in and not feeling like you need to do it like the way that everyone says you need to do it. Like you might not for your first go around have to use variables for everything or auto layout.
Yeah.
Like just getting just kind of going old school and just
Right.
designing it without those things, and then
Right.
over time start. Oh, for this project, I'm gonna use auto layout.
Right.
Not
Right.
gonna use variables or anything global. I'm just gonna do auto layout.
Right.
And then for the next one, like start
Yeah.
layering those things.
I love the way you said put the reps in. So first, I just put in the chat the episode that we did with Miggy from Figgy. So definitely check that out. I think that's a great way to understand the direction of where Figma is going, especially with a great he did a great demonstration on Figma Make. That's the first thing. The secondly, I would say work backwards. So if you have an idea of where you want to get to, do it in those pieces. All right, create the create the layout, and then that's it.
Mm.
Don't do auto layout. Don't do anything, any of the auto features or logic, I like to call it, with Figma. Just make it look good, and then discover from that one project. Go iterate step by step as you go through. Add the auto layout, add the variables, add the things. I think the biggest way to do it, to Sean's point, is that repetition. However, I'm very much so. If I learn one way to do it, like, okay, we can draw. I'm sure we've all seen the photos where, someone with 1 year of art experience, they draw, someone with 2 years, 10 years, and so on. And that's the way that I see it. If you want to take a login screen or a list of users, and you want to say, okay, I'm going to make this list of users at this introductory level. My goal is to have variables, auto layout. You can have the Figma dev. They have dev mode now. That's what you want to get to. But those repetitions to say, okay, well, I did it here. I understand this concept. Now I can graduate and go to auto layout. And I always tell my students, Figma has one of the best YouTube libraries. It's a great open source resource. If you want to learn how to do, most of the time people have various videos of software that they try out that they do on their own. It's very big in the dev space. But for design, Figma has a phenomenal library of if you want to do this, just watch this 4-minute video. And, Miggy has some videos out that are very from the education space where he does great demonstrations, about 45 minutes to an hour long. And you get a breadth of information, but at the same time, he teaches it. I've personally watched him. This was before I knew him, before we even met, and before I even knew he was in Rochester. To be quite frank, I'm like, this guy is just phenomenal. He goes in great detail, but he's a phenomenal instructor. But from that perspective, looking at those videos, but the Figma library, if you just start there. And I would say start with the source or the creator, then go to someone else that might find a different way to do it, and don't be afraid to have the way that you do things. There are standards and guidelines that Figma uses, but if you look it up on YouTube, there are numerous ways to accomplish the same thing. Same thing as dev. Find your way that you're comfortable with, but definitely start with the foundation, do the reps, build up, and then go from there.
That's great. Well, I think we're coming up on time a little bit. If you have any other questions you want to drop in the chat before we wrap up the stream today. But this has been really cool to talk about this time of year. I think from multiple angles, whether you're trying to, win new business this season, or when work is slow and, you're trying to maybe adopt some new skill sets, or as designers, we always want to be doing work that we are really proud of. So to actually have some bandwidth to be able to work on personal projects and something that you feel really compelling and really proud of is a really cool thing. And then on the flip side, there's a lot of us who are trying to slow down. And this year, I'm trying to slow down. So I'm really benefiting from this conversation on how do I slow myself down so that like burnout is a real topic, and maybe that's something that we should talk about in 2026. Is just the idea of as an independent who is wearing all the hats,
Right.
how to do so in a way that doesn't in a way to do it so that you're doing it for the long haul.
Right, right. And not being by yourself, being isolated. That's one of my biggest things. That's one of the things, the bigger aspect of the community. You're not alone. Starting out, I taught myself Figma. To the previous question, I taught myself Figma. You can do it. I built a lot of my prototypes and case studies were self-taught things that I did myself. At the same time, I had nowhere to go. There was like, if you weren't at the time, this was 2015 or so. So at the time, it really wasn't big on the certificate programs or the boot camps that were out there like they are right now. It was very much so self-taught, and I was very isolated to that extent. So not only balancing the business, because you're not just a freelancer, you do have a business, but then managing that expectation of imposter syndrome, like Sean said, putting the angst on yourself when it may not be a thing at all. So definitely, we can. I'd love to have the discussion on that. To that point as well, tell us in the chat what you want to talk about. Let us know some topics that we can prepare. But also, this is a community. We want to hear from you. So if you have a topic or idea, definitely put that in the chat where we can actually have some conversation about what you're looking for and what you're looking to accomplish. But also at the same time, when you come on the stream, share your wins. Tell us what you're winning. If you started out with Figma, if you're kicking it off with Figma to become a master and expert in it, awesome. Tell us where you are. Tell us about that journey. We'd love to hear about it. Not only us, but I'm confident there's people in the community where they can say, well, I tried this or I tried this. And I'll be frank, there are people at multiple levels in our community. So from that perspective, you just might run into a senior that may be able to give you advice, turn into a mentorship. There's just a huge opportunity there. So definitely do that. As well, just another logistics piece. I did go ahead and put in today's registration form. So we'd love to give you that free gift from our friends at Stripe with Stripe Press. Register for today so that you can get the chance to win a free book from us and our friends at Stripe on Stripe Press.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a couple things. I mean, we're really excited for next year, and one of the things that we'll do prior to our next stream is we'll reach out. We're curious just about like dates and times. Like Fridays at 1 has been what we've done for these. I think last 4 streams. Our first one was like a Tuesday night, I think.
It was an evening,
And so we've been running with Fridays, but we want to make sure that we're doing this at a time that works for you. So we'll shoot out like a little poll or survey. But yeah, do some thinking around like if I'm going to make this like maybe a monthly routine where I connect with this web design community online and in live and in real time. What day works out best for me? Is it Tuesday? Is it Thursday? Is it Friday? Is it evening? Is it during the day? We'll send out that poll. And we're really excited about next year, like some topic ideas that we're already spinning around. And, we've talked a lot with Michael and I. We have some guests in the room with us. We've had guests on there, but even we could pop you up on screen and hear from you what you've learned through the community or what you're working on right now, or maybe you have something that would be a benefit to share with the community. So definitely keep in touch. And let's see what else we got before we wrap up. We've already talked through some questions. We know what you want to see next. If you get your name and you're registered and you've stuck around and you've been in the chat, you're eligible for the giveaway, and we'll be in touch that. But I think lastly, our next stream is Friday, December 12th. So we usually do a round. We have been doing the round at around the end of the month. So like one of the last Fridays of the month. We're not going to be meeting on Christmas. Very relevant to the topic today, right? We're not.
We're taking that time off. Definitely taking that time off. And then I just put it, so we're already excited about it. So that chat, I just put in the chat, that's the link to register. So go ahead and register for the next one. We're excited to see what's there. But then also, like I said, like Sean said, and we've been saying, continue to put in some great ideas. We're going to be reaching out to you, but we'd love to hear from you directly. So continue to put in those great ideas. But December 12th definitely is our 6th episode. And then we'll be going there and kicking off 2026 strong.
That's right. So click that link, add it to your calendar, save the date, share it with a friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have I have group chats of designers, of like people that I talk to about these topics. And so if you have some colleagues, some people that you work on projects with together and you think they'd be interested in this, shoot them a text, invite them. We'd love to have them on the stream and get to know each other. So I think that's it for now.
Yeah, absolutely. thanks for joining us. This has been an exciting journey for both of us. We're excited. We have a lot in store for next year. We're really excited for next year, and we're going to be pushing out that survey because we really truly want to hear from you. We can't stress that enough. So definitely, if when the survey comes out, take a chance. Feel free to reach out to us. Share the. This is one of those topics where it's a great topic. It's something that because we're so busy we might miss it. So share it with another colleague, another friend who may be going through a situation similar to making sure they get enough clients, but also balancing that downtime. But phenomenal time today.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. We'll sign off for now, but have an amazing Thanksgiving if you're in the States.
Yes, yes.
If you're not and you're not celebrating Thanksgiving,
Still
just
take
have a
some time
great
off.
just have a great week.
Right, absolutely. Take some time off.
All right, bye for now.